Okay, let's go.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't already been here or haven't already subscribed, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Share the video. If you hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit the notification bell on all so you'll be notified of all the new content that I'm pushing out. And with that, today I want to talk about being on felony probation or any probation and setting you up for failure. Is it a setup for failure? A lot of times it is. From my own experience, I'm going to give you my experience, but there's a lot of people out there that have their own experiences with probation, because you have a lot of egos clashing. You got a lot of people that think they control everything, and their head swells up. And when it comes to being a probation officer or a chief of probation, or even the judges for that matter, the one thing that always bothers me, and I like to expose, wrongdoings, corruption, things like that. And one of the things that bothers me the most is the corruption that goes on, and the community has no clue. Like, they don't see, the community doesn't know. Now, I recently went on the department I used to work for, their website, which they had a website before. It really didn't have a whole lot of information on it, but it has a breakdown of how many offenders and this, that, and the other, and drug court and all that. Well, we didn't have drug court. That started after I left. And a lot of things that they're setting you up for failure is because everything has to do with money. If it didn't have to do with money, just like being incarcerated, that's more money. The state gets paid, the state makes, or the federal prisons, the more the feds make. So let's just touch base a little bit about it and how it can affect you, like in a negative way, and set you up for failure, where you just say, you know what, I don't want to do it. And I'm going to tell you right now my own experience, or my own take on it. Like, if you are somebody that gets in trouble a lot, or you have an alcohol problem, or you just like to drink, you like to party with your friends, or you like to go over there and barbecue and drink, or go to the bars, or whatever it is, but you're not really getting in any trouble or doing anything stupid. You just like to drink. You like to go to the bars. You like to pick up girls, whatever your deal is, pick up women. Probation, you can't do that. Now, if you're looking at, and I've seen so many people, and as little as the minimum sentence I've always seen on a felony was 6 months. So if you take, say, and I understand a lot of these people have never been in trouble in their lives. So they get a taste of the county jail, which county jails are, in my opinion, 10 times worse than prison, just because it's just crazy, and you're mixed up there's no real classification unless they're in trouble, and then they get put into the, like, say, ADSEG. Holy shit, I can't even talk tonight. They're segregated. They get put in the hole, in the county jail, the hole. And, but you're in there with guys that's facing murder charges, and maybe could be a serial killer or whatever they are. They're all in the county jail with you, and who knows what they're going to put you with, or if you're going to be in a dorm type setting, or you're going to be in cells, who you're going to cell up with. And they don't do the greatest job, trust me, because the county sheriff's department runs the jail. And depending on what county you work for, a lot of them, they just don't give a shit and they just put you wherever. And that's just the way it is. And, you don't have a choice. But to me, they're more dangerous. They're more violent. I'm not saying altogether, so don't get me wrong. Those of you that's been to prison, I'm not saying prison is no way not violent. What I'm saying is the county jail, you're mixing everybody together. So this guy, say, that you're in the county jail with, killed 5 people or in his lifetime or whatever, and he's sitting in the county waiting to go to trial or make a plea deal, whatever, but it's court. So he might be sitting in there for a year, 2 years, but then you have these people with these 6-month sentences or a year sentence, and let's just say they get a year a year sentence or a 6-month sentence, and they get a bond set, and they can't make bond. For whatever reason, a lot of people just don't have the money. It's expensive. And that's another lucrative business, bail bonds. They're taking your money, but you're getting your somewhat freedom, because if you bond out, then if it's a felony, you are pretty much, you're on bond supervision, which is the same through the probation department, which is the same thing as being on probation. You know what I mean? So it's like a double-edged sword. So if you get out and you can't behave yourself, or you want to go to the bars and stuff like that, then shit, it's not going to work for you. Anyway, so let's take the 6 months to a year people. So they'll offer them 3 years of probation, because in the state of Ohio, it was, and I'm pretty sure it's still the same way. It's 3 or 5 years, 5 being a max. You can be on 5 and no longer than 5 years. Only under one circumstance can you be on past 5 years, unless the laws have changed, and that is if your probation is tolled. And it's TOLLED, tolled. And I'll explain that to you if you're not familiar with it. So let's say you get put on probation and you decide, you know what? I'm not doing probation. I'm bouncing out and I'm going to go to another state, or maybe you don't leave the state, but you just go hide out. Maybe you hide out for 2, 3, 4 years until you get caught because you got a warrant. At that time, the probation officer, okay, let's just say after 6 months you haven't been caught and you haven't reported and there's no contact at all, then you can file a motion to toll the probation. And what that means is, from the day that you stopped coming in, your probation stopped. And then once you get caught, that probation starts from where you left off. So let's say you did 2 years of probation, you decide you're done, you bounce out, and then you get caught a couple years later, and your probation was told, that motion was filed. And so you're thinking, okay, well, it's 5 years. I got 5 years paper, and I was gone 2 years, or I was on probation for 2 years before I left. So I only got, what was I saying? So you're gone 2 years, you were on probation for 2 years, and you only got 5 years. So you're like, okay, well, I only got a year left of probation when they catch me now, No, your probation was told. It was stopped when you quit reporting. And if that's granted, then you're you're really not doing more than 5 years, but it stopped when you left. And then when you get caught, say 2 years later, it starts back up again. So now you still have 3 years left on paper, because you left at 2 years. You did 2 years of paper. Anyways, it's confusing, but it's just for you people out, not you people, for everybody watching, that's something that you might want to consider, because they can here in Ohio, anyways, toll your probation. And so if you're gone 4 years, 4 years, 11 months, and 20 days from the day you were put on probation, and you got 5 years, and you think, oh, cool, I'm just going to get, I'm only going to have to do a couple months of probation and I'm off. So who cares? No. And it doesn't always happen that way. Depends on the officer. And I think I talked about this before, and if not, I'm going to talk about it again. So let's get back to that. So I used to always be blown away by, because I was locked up when I was young. And so I'm like, I look at these people, they have a 6-month sentence in prison, and then they get, say, 3 years probation. And they take the 3 years probation. Now, granted, let's say you were sitting in the county jail for 3 months, 2 months, 3 months. We'll just say 3 months. You got a 6 months prison sentence, and you just agreed to be on probation for 3 years. That 3 months is going to sit on the shelf while you're have to jump through all these hoops on probation for the next 3 years for 3 months in prison. To me, if it's 3 months or a year and I sat in the county for 3 months, which you're going to get your jail credit for, I'm going to just say, send me to prison. By the time they get you, if they sentence you, and by the time you go back to the county jail, it's like I said, you've already done, say, 3 months in the county when you say, okay, yeah, I'll take probation. By the time you go back to the county jail and they put in for you to get shipped to the prison, say you're sitting there for another 3 weeks before that order gets put in, or they decide that's, your time to go, and they take you out. Say you sit in there 3 weeks or another month, and then you go to reception. And depending on reception, you could be there for a month, 2 months, 3 months. You know what I mean? And your time's up. You've just maxed out all your time and you're done. So, and this is just me personally, I would take, because I don't want somebody with a microscope up my ass, and I'm talking to you as a former probation officer, so I don't want somebody up my ass checking on my shit, me having to report, doing whatever, and all that bullshit for 6 months, which, but like I said, by the time you get it all, it's going to be done anyways. If you would have just took the state time, or a year, same thing with a year. Now, if you're looking at 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and they offer you like 2 years in prison and then put you on paper, and then the rest is put on the shelf. So if you screw up, you're going to go back and do the rest of that. That's a little different. But these short timers, but it's their first time ever being in trouble and things like that. So I get it. So setting up probation, setting you up for failure. Let me get into that a little bit. So let's say you just get out of prison, okay? And part of your term is you got to do 5 years paper. You come out of prison with nothing. And before you went to prison, you sold drugs or you hustled in the streets. And that was your get down, and that was how you made your money. Well, now you got to worry about your probation officer sitting there up your ass, and you got to jump through all these hoops, and it's all about money. It all boils down to money, because they'll say, okay, well, when you get out, you need to go to a rehab center or a halfway house first. And it's crazy because it's like, dude, I just did 2 years in prison. Okay, just say you're an addict or an alcoholic, whatever your forte is. But you just did say 2 years in prison of your sentence, and they let you out on paper, and they tell you, well, you got to go to an inpatient treatment for 90 days or 6 months. Dude, I've been clean for 2 years. So you were being, in prison. You weren't doing no drugs. You weren't doing nothing. You were, working, or you had a job in prison, whatever it is. But you're clean, and you've been clean for 2 years. What is the purpose of you going to an inpatient treatment? There's no reason for it. Halfway house, same way. They use those they want to integrate you back into society. Now, my thoughts on that, and I worked in that field too. And they get paid a lot of money per inmate. Okay. So they want to put you in the halfway house to reintegrate you back into society. Now, if you've been down for 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, I get it. You need that reintegration back into society of, being helped out with getting, like the halfway houses help you get a job and have you do classes or whatever it may be in the halfway house. You get a little bit of freedom. Some halfway houses I've heard are just pretty much you do whatever you want. But the one that I dealt with, no, it wasn't like that. It was a community-based corrections. And yeah, you could leave, you get visits, or you can earn passes, home passes, after you got to be there 30 days. And then after 30 days, if you don't get no trouble, no points, then you're eligible to go on, say, a one day home pass a week. And then as you earn your time being good, you get weekend passes to go home, and they check on you the whole time you're there. But again, if you haven't done a real long, serious, and you're not institutionalized, and these guys are going in there and they've only been in prison for a year, it's like they're not institutionalized, and they've never been to prison before. Why they need to go to halfway house? Well, it's money. It's money because you still have to pay your probation fees, whatever fines you have, restitution, whatever that may be. Okay, so you have to pay probation to be on probation, and then you're paying the halfway house, because the way these halfway houses work is once you're eligible for a job and you got to get a job, and you have to pay like 20% of your paycheck goes to the halfway house. All right. And then you're paying your probation fees, even though you're in a halfway house and they're not really doing supervising. They might come and visit you every once in a while. And other than if you get in trouble or pick up a charge or get kicked out of the halfway house, then they're there. Then the probation officer's there to take you to jail. But other than that, so see how all the money, so you're getting paid, the probation department's getting paid. The halfway house is getting paid from the state. Plus, you're paying them to stay there. Do you see how that works? It's a big circle of shit, and it's all about the money. Now, setting you up for failure. So let's say you don't go to a halfway house, and you don't have to go to an inpatient treatment or anything like that. You just straight get out, you get put on paper, and then they tag you with, okay, you're going to report. So you have no driver's license, you have no car. You're lucky that you maybe have the place that maybe you're living at your parents, your grandparents, aunt, uncle, somebody, okay, that you got out and that's address is good and that's where you live. So right off the rip, they're going to have you reporting, especially if it's intensive. You're going to be reporting 1, 2, 3 times a week. Until you prove yourself that you're not getting in any trouble and you're doing everything you're supposed to do. Now, it could be every single day you got to report for the first month. It just depends on your background. So, anyways, and even with regular probation, it's setting people up for failure because if they just came out of prison, they got no money, they got nothing. Okay. And you got to get a job. If you don't have your GED or whatever, you got to go to classes, do that. You got to go to AANA meetings, or you got to go to counseling, substance abuse counseling, or mental health counseling. And on top of that, you got to pay your probation fees every month. And then you got to be at probation. So, like, you're trying to get a job and say you're working, and they want you to report, and they don't care about your job or whatever. Although that's part of your probation is you got to get a job, and then here they are telling you got to come in here X amount of days a week, and say you work day shift and you work during those hours, you can't report or you're gonna mess up your job. And a lot of guys would go on their lunch break, but sometimes you might have to sit there for a while. A lot of people just say, screw it. It is not worth it. And I don't blame them, because it does set them up for failure. Because you know what? I had officers that I worked with. They were petty, man. Some of them are so petty. And I'm telling you, and I think I talked about this before. I came from the streets, and not like I lived on the streets, but I mean, I was street smart where I grew up in California. So I was hip to the streets, and I didn't have a college degree, which you have for this job. You have to have a 4-year degree, bachelor's degree in like criminology, psychology, or social work, or whatever other ones they want. Or you can have experience, like say you're in law enforcement or whatever, criminal experience, and have that, and then they'll use that like 2 years of your experience and a 2-year degree or whatever. Well, I got my job with no degree at all. I had no college degree, and just my previous experience of what I was doing, my jobs before that. It was based on my experience, and out of like 100 applicants or whatever it may be, I got chose. I got offered the position, and a lot of it has to do with street smarts. So let's get back to some of these officers that are very petty. They never been on the streets. A lot of them, shit was handed to them. I'm not saying every one of them, but a lot of them that I work with, shit was handed to them as a kid, and they're book smarts because they went to college. So they don't have that street smart mentality. And those are the ones that work behind the desk. And it's strictly all they do. Like I used to work the streets a lot. Me and my partner, we worked the warrants. We worked a lot of stuff for everybody. And it was I like the streets because then I'm not confined to an office, and I can't sit behind a computer and you tell somebody, okay, well, you got to come in here this day, that day. Although I did have to do office time. I'm not going to lie about that. I did have to be in the office because we actually got in trouble, me and my partner did, for working out on the streets too much. How's that possible? I mean, we're seeing our people, but it's just out on the street. You know what I mean? Going to their houses and what have you, and doing a visit, and then they don't have to come in, and and we do a house check maybe or something like that. But yeah, so you get these petty ones that sit behind a desk. They're book smart, and they thrive on antagonizing people and getting them to screw up by constantly poking the bear with them. Like, they don't, like, I'm going to tell you what, straight off the rip, the female officers were the worst, not except for one. One female officer I worked with, she was great. She was super fair. with people. She was very nice. She was not about, she didn't get into that gossip with the other girls. And the other girls were so petty. And like, if a girl, say it was a female on probation and she was pretty, and these two weren't, they were heavier set, whatever. And if this girl came in there and she's pretty, they automatically don't like her. And so they're automatically on her ass all the time. So they target people, and they'll target certain individuals for no reason whatsoever, just because they don't like them or they're jealous of them or whatever it is. I don't know. It's petty. It's like school, like junior high school shit. Or say they have a guy in there, on paper, and the guy comes in there and say he's a good looking dude, and they get, so they like, they're good to him and stuff like that. Well, he gets a girlfriend, and the girlfriend's, hot. She's smoking hot or whatever. And they're like, well, who's that? Now we got to run her background, and you can't be seeing her anymore. That's just it. I mean, they get the ego and the power tripping. It just causes a big mess. You know what I mean? And it screws people up in their program. They're trying to get through a probation. And if I had any advice for anybody when it comes to probation, is if you have a short time to do, and a lot of these other YouTube channels that I watch that's been to prison for 3, 5, 10, 20, 30 years in prison, they all say you can do the time. You know what I mean? People will say all the time to them, there's no way I could ever do, prison. I couldn't do it. And they always say, you know what, you could do it. You know what I mean? Because you don't have a choice. You're put there. So you're going to do the time. How you do your time is up to you. But my suggestion is don't get wrapped up in that paper, because that paper is nothing but a money-making machine. Then when they came out with drug court, holy shit, that drug court's another money-making machine. And it's just making money for the courts and the county, because they're getting paid. And a lot of these people, are on Medicaid. So Medicaid pays for all their counseling and stuff like that. Well, when they get to drug court, with drug court, they got to be in there all the time, and they got to do all this different shit, and they got to get counseling and meetings, and it's like, dude, they don't have time to do anything. And mind you, like I said, I would say probably 85% of the people on paper don't have a driver's license, but yet they expect them to get a job, report, go to meetings, do all this shit. You're throwing all this shit at them. 20 things they got to do when they get out, and they fail. Well, I wonder why they fail. That's why. I mean, you put too much pressure on somebody, and it's just not right. And I always used to say that. I mean, I was fair, firm, and consistent. Those were the 3 things I lived by. And I was told that by, I think I already talked about this, the sheriff I worked for at one time, a very, very, very good man, very smart man. And he always told me, you know what, if you're just fair, firm, and consistent, then you're not going to have any problems in your career. Told me that way, way, way before that. So he was very successful at what he did. And that's how I try to do it. Now, sympathy wise, again, if you're book smart, can people that are born hustlers and born scammers and whatever their hustle is, can they get over on their PO? Hell yes. Hell yeah. I could smell that shit a mile away. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I never played into something and maybe thought, but and then they ended up proving me that they were hustling me or whatever. But the majority of the time, I already knew their get down, and I already talked to them, and I already like, look, I already know what you're trying to do, whatever. These other officers, again, aren't street smart or book smart, and they don't know how to deal with them. And so they believe all the bullshit. But again, they put them in predicaments to fail. And I feel like people, every time I would see someone be like, man, you got out of prison. This is your third felony, third time you've been locked up. And you're taking paper and you only got two. Let's see, you did 5 years, 8 years, and then you got another 6 years this time. So you've been locked up. This is your third time being locked up in prison. And you take paper. It's like, are you crazy? It's that freedom. I understand that. It's the part of being, but you really don't have any freedom being on paper, on probation. You don't have that freedom that you think you're going to have. But again, they sit there and they're hustlers. They're born hustlers. That's their get down. So they figure they're gonna hustle the system. Has people hustled the system before and got away with it? Yeah. Those are the people. Some of the people I'm trying to get on my channel right now. I talked about. There's two people I want to interview from the department that I worked for because they hustled the shit out of them. And this was after I left. And I think it's funny. So I want to get them on the show. I'm just waiting. One's out of state. The other one is just tied up right now with some other prior commitments. And but I will get them on here and we will talk about it. But that's the probation setup, setting you up for failure. I've seen it so many times, and I see it all. It's all about the money, and they don't want to see anyone. I mean, they say they want to see you succeed and never come back again. You know what I mean? But when you come back again, it's just, the recidivism rate is high. And so they know they're just going to keep coming back. They're going to keep coming back, just like they keep going back to prison. You know how many times people walk out of prison, I've heard, and they say, I'll never come back again. This is my last time, dude. I'll never be back in here. Or the county jail, I'll never be back here again. This is it. A month later, a week later. I've seen them 2 days later or a month later. They're back in jail again. I mean, the quickest turnaround I seen was probably a day, 24 hours, or 2 days. Quickest turnaround. When they picked up another charge already, and they're right back in it. And I mean, that's just their life, though. That's all they know. And trying to teach and help probationers succeed in their life so they don't have to go back to that lifestyle is so hard because, again, like I said, depending on who your probation officer is, they are setting you up to fail. Well, the whole department is. The whole system is setting you up to fail because they put so much stuff on you and rules and regulations and fines and probation fees and jobs and counseling and meetings. And it's like how, and especially if you have a family, how are you supposed to juggle all that? You know what I mean? And if you screw up, they're on you like flies on shit. Not all of them, but a lot of them I've seen, again, these officers, bunch of backstabbers too, man. I started this channel because to expose corruption and things, which I've been trying to do. I've been getting off topic. Sometimes I get on other things, and that's okay because I want my channel to be just about anything, with the judicial system or whatever it may be. And whether it's somebody like I had that girl Panda on here, called her the U-Haul Bandit, was on, was it addicted to drugs and had a U-Haul truck and kept it, and but she told her life story and what had happened to her. And I'll probably have her back on, one time, not for no 2 hours. That interview was like 2 hours. I set it out at 2 hours. I didn't realize it was 2 hours. I know I was tired, and you could probably see it in the video. I was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, it was a good video. It was a good, I thought it was a good interview. It was my very first interview. I thought it was good though. But I'd like to have her come on because she told me about two kidnapping incidents. So, and some other stuff. So I want to kind of get into that a little bit, what story she has about that. But don't get wrapped up in that, man, because it is. I mean, if you're a straight lace and you made one little mistake one time, and in your heart and your mind that you're not addicted to any substances, and you hang around with the right people, that's not going to tempt you or get you into trouble, and you did all of it on your own, then probation's for you. But if you can't handle all that pressure, or staying away from your people, your friends, your homies, whatever, if you can't stay away from them and be on the straight and narrow, you know what I mean, then it's not going to work. It's just not going to work for you. And I understand everybody wants to be free, and maybe it's worth it. You know what I mean? Say you're free for 6 months, you're free for a year, and then you screw up and you go back, and you just basically got out for, say, a year, and of your time, you're not getting any more time unless they always try to throw in, oh, we're going to get you on escape charges or something like that. That never happens. I've seen that threatened so many times that you're going to get an escape charge on top of that because you took off from probation. And I'm not saying do it and don't do it. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying I never seen a person charged with it. I don't think ever. They'll say, yeah, we're going to tack an escape charge on that because you left, you absconded from probation or whatever. But anyway, that's it for today, guys. I didn't even realize it's already been like 37 minutes I've been talking. Hopefully that helps you a little bit. If you have any questions, leave a comment. I know a lot of people don't comment, or I get a lot of haters, and I'm not doing this YouTube. You don't see nothing scrolling across my screen here saying, hey, freaking, there's my Cash App, or in my description, there's my Cash App, and there's my PayPal, and all that kind of stuff. I just don't do that. You know what I mean? It's not me. I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it to help you, entertain you, and actually lace you up on some things, which a lot of you already know, but I'm telling you on the back side of it, my side of it, that's things you might not know. And I am going to get into more of this corruption. I have, trust me, tons and tons of stories on that. But these other stories come out, I feel like I want to cover them, these corruption stories, and then I let them out. And like I've been doing all these stories on, I did some on corruption and these plea deals and chomos and stuff like that. And then I was doing I put out some videos on what happened in the prison, California, because people like to see those and know about what's going on in the prison system. And I noticed that's a big, huge thing. I mean, I'm not in it. I am to an extent, but I'm more like trying to help people. That's why I have a contact email. My contact information's on my channel. If you need help, you don't know where to turn, you need advice, whatever it may be, reach out to me. I'll do whatever I can to help. And I've always been that way. Always try to help people. That's my goal, is try to help people and get the word out to these youngsters. I'm not talking from a prison aspect of it as much as these other guys are. Was I in trouble when I was younger? Yeah. Did I get in trouble? Did I get locked up? Yes, I did. We'll get into that story sometime. I've already told my story on one big platform. I did an interview and told my story, and I've told you guys about it. And if you haven't watched it, then I have another interview on an even bigger platform coming up here in about 3 weeks. I think it's about 3 weeks. And that one's a huge platform and well known and podcast. And so I'll be telling my story on there. And once that gets out there, then maybe then I'll get into more of my experiences. But I just like to get this corrupt out there, the corruption. That's my main thing. And the inner workings of stuff, and man, all the people. And I'm going to tell you what, if every job has Karens, what they call them Karens now, snitches, I call them busybodies, snitches, whatever they are, backstabbers. I ain't never seen so many in my life. I'm not kidding you. In the law enforcement field, I had never run into so many snitches and backstabbers in my life until I got into that field. And that is 100% truth. I don't know why they feel like they got to be snitches and tell and backstab you in the back. If you got a problem with me, dude, I'm one of them people. Like, you got a problem with me, just come up to me and tell me. You know what I mean? What your problem is, and we'll sort it out however we got to sort it out. But all right, guys, that's it for tonight. I just thought I'd do this video real quick. I was sitting there thinking about it, and I was watching actually one of the channels I watch, and it was talking about probation, and I just felt like, man, that guy got set up for failure from the beginning, and I already know that firsthand. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a little quick, not quick now, 40-minute video on it. All right, guys. Thanks again for all your support, stopping by my channel. Hope you like the content. I know hopefully I'm getting better at it. I still stutter. Can't help that, dude. That's my PTSD. A lot of times I just can't help it. I can't control it. I stutter, or I can't say words right, which is crazy because I'm pretty intelligent person, or I wouldn't have held the positions I held, or done some of the things that I've done. So I'm not dumb by all means, but when it comes to, and it's crazy because I used to have to talk to so many people all the time. I never had a problem with it, but now doing this, where anybody in the whole wide world can see it, I guess like, whatever they call it, starstruck or whatever it is, deer in the headlights, you know what I mean? Sometimes, but I'm getting better compared to my first videos. I can get a lot better. All right, guys, be safe. Have a good one. Until the next time, peace.